Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us for the Milwaukee County Unified Emergency Operations Center daily afternoon press briefing. With the governor's announcement today, we could focus on reaction to today's announcement of the extended safer at home order. So I believe Mayor Barrett, you're starting us off today.
Thank you, Brian. And as Brian mentioned, the governor's decision and announcement to extend the stay-at-home, safer-at-home order through mid-May is not a surprise for many of us. I think we could see for several days that he was foreshadowing this decision. And I think it's in some ways a sign of the success that we have had, that the fact that we are seeing a reduction in numbers means that we should stay the course right now and should continue to do what we've been doing for the last month, and that is to have everybody play a part in trying to make sure that we can work through this pandemic. So it's a difficult decision, I'm sure, for the governor, but it's a decision that we're supportive of because we want to see our economy come back. We want to see people be healthy. And the best way for us to get our lives back to normal is to continue to do what we've been doing for the last month. We know, again, that this is causing a hardship, an economic hardship. And all you have to do is look at the unemployment claims and see the difficulties that small businesses are having. And I am very sympathetic to that. And so what I want to do here at the local level is concentrate on those steps that we can take here so that we can, as quickly as possible, defeat this pandemic and get our economy moving again. And one of the keys to that has been identified by virtually everyone who's looked at this is making sure that we have more expansive testing. And so a lot of the energy that I've been spending and a lot of the energy that Commissioner Kowalik has been spending has been to work with the state and work with others to see what we can do to achieve more testing here in the city of Milwaukee. And to put this in perspective, in Winnebago County, they have 30 cases. In 2 census tracts, not zip codes, but census tracts, which are very much smaller than that. One on the far northwest part of the city of Milwaukee, which is not that far from down here. And I see President Montgomery on the picture as well. The other in the northeastern part of the city of Milwaukee, just north of Capitol Drive. Both of those have 30 or more positive cases of COVID-19 in one census tract. So we have as many in one census tract as you'll see in all of Outagamie County, which is where Oshkosh is located. I'm sorry, Winnebago County, where Oshkosh is located. So that underscores just the intensity that we're seeing with COVID-19 in parts of the city of Milwaukee. So then the obvious question is, all right, how do we move to more testing? How do we get more testing? And for the first couple of weeks that we were dealing with this, the real issue was that we had to make sure that our healthcare responders, our healthcare workers, as well as individuals in the hospital, that they receive the testing. And we basically have accomplished that to a considerable extent. The next place to go, of course, is the first responders. And that's something that is still a work in progress. But we think that is going to be a key to allowing us to go then for more localized testing. And what I want to see is more community testing that will allow us to go to some of these neighborhoods that are truly hotspots and do more testing in these areas, literally right in these areas, many of which are not served by hospitals and physicians' offices. That's the challenge we have in Milwaukee, is that there's a considerable amount of people who, when we say work through your provider, they don't have a provider. They simply don't have a provider. And so we have to be responsible and do what we can to make sure that they can have access to the testing as well. So again, to take a further step, one of the announcements that was made in the last several weeks was the partnership with Exact Sciences. Exact Sciences is a company out of Madison, which does tests for, so people don't have to have colonoscopies. It's an at-home test to make sure that you don't have colon cancer. But they have the capacity and the capability also to do testing for COVID-19, and in fact have entered into agreement with the state of Wisconsin to provide literally tens of thousands of test kits to the state of Wisconsin. At this point, the demand for those test kits is not there. And what I want us to do here in Milwaukee is I want us to work with the state of Wisconsin, with Exact Sciences, and see what we can do, not in weeks, but literally in days, to bring those test kits here so that they can be implemented in our community. And so I've had conversations with Dr. Raymond at the medical college, with Weston. I've been talking a lot to representatives from the state. Obviously, Commissioner Kwolek is very, very, very much leading this effort to make sure that we're going to have community testing. That's important because we know that it serves two purposes. One, it allows us to literally study this issue. And when I say study this issue, it's important for us to be in the community to see exactly what's happening. But to me, even more importantly, is to the extent that we can identify individuals who are positive, we can take steps that are necessary. And those steps, of course, are to test them. And if they test positive, to make sure that they are isolated and quarantined, and then to do the tracing, which is the third part of this, and where the state, again, has stepped up in a significant way. I think the more widespread we can have that testing, that isolation, that contact tracing, the quicker we're going to be able to lift this order that in essence closes down major parts of our economy, because we're going to be able to more surgically identify those individuals who are carrying the virus and deal with them on a more specific basis. But right now, there are still a lot of people who they're afraid to go back to work. And we have to be mindful of that. And we have to be mindful that even with the progress that we have made up to this point, that there is still a lot of work to be done. And the worst thing we can do, even though we're seeing some evidence that the stay-at-home order is being successful, the worst thing we can do is to take our foot off the gas. So again, I am very concerned about the economic impact that this is causing people in their individual lives and in businesses. I'm very concerned about that. I think as all the people who are on this broadcast are concerned about. But I truly believe that the best way for us to get back to normalcy is to squash this thing as much as we can. If we take our foot off the accelerator too soon, my fear is all we are doing is we are permitting a return of this with a vengeance. And what we know from history, what we know from the 1918 pandemic that affected this country was that it really came in three waves. There was the first wave in the first part of 1918, and then it subsided, but it came back with a vengeance in the fall of 1918, and then the following spring. So we have to, I believe, stay vigilant and work with the state, work with each other, and work most importantly with our health community and our public health experts so that we can do everything we can to, again, get back to where we all want to be.
Thank you. So I'm just going to ask Mariela Godinez if you want Mariela to ask your question. I'm wasn't quite phrased as a question, so I'm not sure if you were just making a comment or if you did have a specific question. But if you do want to ask a question to any of the presenters, feel free to take yourself off mute. And okay, I see it here in the chat. The question is there going to be any type of economic relief to undocumented immigrants and refugees similar to Illinois? Anyone know how to respond to that?
I'm not familiar with what they're doing in Illinois, and I'll certainly look into it.
Okay, agreed. Thanks. And maybe we can come back to that. And Mariela, if you wanted to follow up with me via email, we might be able to get more of an answer for you after the call offline. Okay. So I guess we will wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for being on the call, and apologies again for the change in topic today. We do plan to come back tomorrow with updates on the situation at the House of Corrections and the jail with some of our experts from the criminal justice community. Thanks everyone for being on the call, and have a great rest of your day.